Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're just going to wait another minute or two to let more folks sign in, and then we'll get started. So please sit tight. Hello, everyone. My name is Olga Karanigos, and I'm the Senior Director of Marketing here at Credo. Before we begin, there are a few housekeeping items I'd like to go through. So if you can hear me okay, please use the raise hand option located on your control panel. Great. There will be a recording of the webinar shared via email within 24 hours. And at the conclusion of today's session, there will be a short survey that you will be directed to. If you have a question during the webinar, please use the questions portion of your control panel to submit them, and we'll answer all the questions we have time for at the end of the webinar during a Q&A session. So thank you for joining us today for Agents of Change, Innovative Strategies to Transform the First Year Experience. Today we welcome the winners of the second annual FYE Innovation Awards, which is a partnership we at Credo embarked on with Case Western Reserve University to honor libraries and librarians who are innovating in the first year experience. Enterprising librarians have recognized that effective FYE programs can impact everything from retention rates to overall student success, and thus have emerged with creative ways to take part in this arena. So today's winners that we'll be joined by are Bryant Moore of Texas A&M University, San Antonio, and Allison Morgan, Assistant Director of Public Services, and Reichbost, University Archivist and Special Collections Librarian of Xavier University. Xavier University's McDonald Library was the Innovation Award winner. Both demonstrated ingenuity when building incoming students' information literacy skills during their critical first months on campus. Moore was selected for his creative approach to establishing a welcoming atmosphere for new students and for his engaging instruction activities. Xavier librarians developed a 4-credit course investigating the institution's history, which cultivated research skills while strengthening students' relationships with their new school. But better for you to hear from the winners themselves, so you'll be hearing from them about their programs. We'll then have a brief interview and discussion portion, and we'll end with the Q&A from you all in the audience. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to you, Bryant. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I'm from Texas A&M University San Antonio Library, and you can go ahead and change it to the next slide. So Texas A&M University San Antonio Library was founded as the first upper division institution of higher education located in South San Antonio. We have over 6,000 students enrolled, and 71% of our students are first-generation college students. We welcomed our first inaugural class of first-year students in 2016, and our library saw a need to develop a first-year experienced librarian. So transitioning to a college campus can be an overwhelming experience, especially for first-year students. So the library has become hopefully has become a place where students can learn and know how to find resources to be successful. And this part of the webinar will tell about the different services that we try to offer to eliminate library anxiety and to welcome students. So the first thing that I like to go to or I participate in to engage our students is new student orientation. During new student orientation, I make connections with students and their families. I provide information about the library and its services. And one of the things that we did for our transfer and graduate students is give them a library loot coupon during the information presentation. And as you can see in the picture, the coupons were passed out before the presentation, and after the presentation, they were able to bring that coupon by the library and get a free bag from the library. We like to do things this way to help our students learn about the services, but to help them get familiar with the services. So the things that we offer, we try to do it with our library's logo as well. You can go ahead and change the slide. The next time I see students, I try to build on relationships is during Jaguar X. Jaguar X is a mandatory week-long program that all freshmen must complete here at our university. Jaguar X is designed to welcome and prepare students for a smooth transition in college. And to do that here at the library, we have had several opportunities in Jaguar X. You can go ahead and change the slide. So our first opportunity started in fall 2017 when we did we had the opportunity to do a Blackboard library and library scavenger hunt session. And in that session, over 300 students mentioned the library as the most beneficial session for their first year semester. So in 2018, the Office of First Year Experience invited us to have our own session, which was a mandatory for all incoming students to attend. And during that session, we did a library scavenger hunt. And we're going to tell you about a little bit about that scavenger hunt. So the library scavenger hunt, we tried to center around learning objectives. So this learning objective was to get the students familiar with the library resources. We tried to develop clues and scenarios that highlight key resources. So if you look at the picture in the middle of the screen, that picture is some of our students during the scavenger hunt had to find the business card for the first year experienced librarian to find out his contact information. And so they'll know how to contact a first year experienced librarian during their first year. We try to engage students with the scavenger hunt. So in the lower picture, you can see that we have our winners for this particular scavenger hunt. We have many sessions, but the winners got tote bags, and we try to make memories and have them take pictures and things like that during the scavenger hunt. We try to evaluate and try new things. So we started off with a paper version of the scavenger hunt in 2017, but the scavenger hunt grew, and we started to use a software called Adventure Builder. And in Adventure Builder, you can build different scavenger hunt sessions, and so the students can go through on their phone or through their computer. If you can change to the next slide, please. So our library and scavenger hunt was also incorporated. It was a 2-session process since we had to accommodate so many students. And the second session to go with that scavenger hunt was a information session about the different databases and how to use the library's website. And we did that, I did that in the form of a library Mythbuster. And this was based off the television show Mythbusters. Many of y'all probably have heard of that. And I incorporated a demonstration of the library's website. So this type of activity engaged students in discussion about their library experiences. And this activity was adopted from the First Year Experience Cookbook. And you can go ahead and change the slide. The next time I meet students is library instruction sessions. So I tried to work with professors to develop different activities for library scavengers, library instruction sessions, such as if you see the first picture, you'll see me and a professor, we did library Jeopardy. That Jeopardy focused on the research guide for the Speech 1350 class, and that Jeopardy also focused on APA. I used things such as buzzers and dry erase board pedals for the scavenger hunt to make it interactive for the students. The next picture is a picture of from a syllabus or activity that we did called the Quest. The Quest was the idea of an English professor who wanted her students to learn about academic resources that they were going to use for their paper that they had to write for the semester. And she wanted them to learn how to summarize and evaluate information for that assignment and compare and contrast resources and to use APA style. And many of the resources from that scavenger hunt, the Quest, was based off of resources from our archives and special collections. So that was a good way to incorporate those materials in that scavenger hunt in that class as well. You can go ahead and change the slide. So it is also important to incorporate engaging and personal content in your online materials as well. Jaguar Tracks plays a big role here on our campus. We have 4 Jaguar Tracks classes that our librarians go into, and as the FYE librarian, I go into Jaguar Tracks 1 and 2. Our Jaguar Tracks 1 information literacy module, I had some feedback from students that they wanted it more engaging. So in order to do that, I tried to include videos of myself introducing each section of the module. And then I tried to use updated Credo materials that were updated the previous year as well. As you can see in the middle of the screen, you'll see a picture of a candy bar. So I incorporated a secret challenge in each of the videos that I put in. And there was 2 words in that challenge that if students got those words, wrote those words down and brought them to me, they were able to get a candy bar. And that was a way to get the students to remember that I was here for them during the semester. And if you can change it to the next slide. And our last session is outreach. So I tried to serve on different committees, and such as the Common Read Committee, and we tried to participate in, let me go back to the Common Read. We did a pilot program for one of our instructors for the Common Read theme, and this was a Common Read showcase. This showcase was done in the speech class, and one of the other things that I want to mention that we like to highlight, is the Real News for Real People. This was a fake news presentation that I did. So I try to get out and engage with students all year round throughout the semester so they will remember the library and the library resources and hopefully eliminate library anxiety.
Thank you, Brian. So we'll pass it over. Were you all set?
Yes.
Great. So we'll pass it over now to Xavier librarians, Anne and Allison. Go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thank you. Hi, this is Allison from Xavier. I want to start with a little background about the course we're going to be telling you about. Xavier is a Catholic Jesuit university with about 4,500 undergraduates and 2,500 graduate students. And our class size for the first year students over the past few years has been between 1,250 and 1,450 students, which is pretty good size for us. In 2015, the Xavier faculty significantly revised our core curriculum and added a required course called the First Year Seminar. These are typically taught by principal faculty only, limited to 16 students, and are a requirement for graduation. Faculty apply to teach on any subject that interests them. It's not discipline specific, but all courses must include the shared theme of the greater good. So Xavier places an emphasis on a number of shared Jesuit values, 2 of which are solidarity and kinship and service rooted in justice and love. With these guiding principles as part of the liberal arts education that our students receive, there's a focus on thinking beyond just the content of the courses to address larger issues in society. The first-year seminars also included an emphasis on faculty developing mentoring relationships with the students and spending time discussing vocation throughout the course. When the core was being revised, the soon-to-be director of the first-year seminar program contacted the library because the faculty felt really strongly that there should be an information literacy component in the seminars. We, of course, were thrilled at this. The learning outcomes include identifying and critically assessing multiple dimensions of an ethical issue in an attempt to reach a conclusion, which is fulfilled by interpreting challenging readings, employing effective library research and information literacy skills, and constructing arguments supported with evidence. The majority of faculty work with librarians to enhance the course assignments and research components of their first-year seminar courses as a result of this specific learning outcome. So, Olga, if you want to change the slide.
All right, switching over at Xavier now, it's Anne. I came to Xavier in December 2016 with the understanding that a big part of my role was to increase the visibility and use of university archives. Almost immediately, the library director, Allison, and I began talking about teaching a full semester 3-credit course as one strategy for elevating the archives, while also improving the information literacy and research skills of first-year students, a goal which was already laid out in our library's strategic plan. In a 2016 article in the Chronicle of Higher Education, Corey Earle argued that a college should teach its own history to create a unifying experience for students and to engage them early on in the life of the academy and the alumni community. We hoped that our seminar, focusing on Xavier's history, would kickstart the first-year students into more campus engagement and contribute to the university's ongoing retention efforts by deepening students' pride in the school. The first-year seminar program, with its goals that Allison just mentioned, presented a natural fit for our course. So we sought support from the director of the first-year program and submitted a course proposal. That proposal was reviewed and then approved by a faculty first-year seminar task force. We then formed our teaching team, which included Allison, who has extensive experience working with faculty on humanities projects, Ann Davies, who is library liaison to the history department and a participant in a digital scholarship learning community, and then myself, who as university archivist would facilitate access to the collections and provide content expertise. We spent the summer and fall of 2017, a lot of that time, preparing the course, writing the syllabus, outlining the schedule, selecting the readings, contacting speakers, etc. We organized the course into 4 themes that we thought represented Xavier's history and appealed to student interest. So each reading, discussion, project, video tied into one of those themes throughout the semester. And then a set of overarching questions guided our class. We wanted the students to consider how the university remembers its history, all of it, the good and the bad. How does our history help the students understand their present experience at Xavier? And how do they as students contribute to Xavier's history? Those guiding questions in the course were meant to deepen our students' understanding of the university ecosystem, demystifying its ins and outs. We wanted the course to help the students feel more rooted and connected to the university and for it to foster personal reflection on their student experience. Our aim was to have the students recognize their agency in their own college experience. So how did we do it? The course was taught on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which gave us longer periods of time for in-class research. Tuesdays were focused on content with discussions, short lectures, and in-class primary source analysis practice. Thursdays we used to focus on experiences, building archival literacy skills, and working on our information literacy skills. We were fortunate to have several guest speakers from other departments, including the university president, and they came and talked about their background, their role, and their vocation. The Tuesday classes were typically held in the classroom building, and then on Thursdays, we occasionally came over to the library, both for ease of access to university archives, and then also to get the students more comfortable in the physical library space. For course content, we relied on journal articles, videos, and published university histories. We also then incorporated previously developed web tools for improving specific information literacy skills, such as designing search strategies and identifying search terms. Primary sources and primary source research were a key component of the class. We spent several sessions identifying what we meant by primary sources, how to find them, how to visit an archive, and how to analyze and interpret primary sources. I pre-selected most of the primary sources we used in the class, but the students were expected to find their own in the archives as part of a major project. The assignments were designed to allow students to explore topics of interest to them personally or tied to their major. In their major project, students analyzed and interpreted a historical topic, such as Xavier's experience going coeducational, and they used primary and secondary sources. They were required to present the topic, including digital images of their source, on a digital platform to the public. So our goal was to increase their confidence in conducting college-level research using a variety of sources and to practice distilling that information for the public. Working with only 16 students, we felt that we could successfully monitor their engagement with information sources and their research capabilities. Next slide. So how did we do? Did we live up to our course goals? Well, that's our class in the corner of the slide, and most of them, I think, are all smiling. Our main sources of the assessment were our grading rubrics, our in-class observation, and the teacher course evaluations. Based on the first two, we could determine how the students did in meeting our student learning outcomes. Could they apply the approaches of multiple disciplines to a significant issue? Could they interpret challenging readings or construct their arguments effectively? From those evaluations, we learned how the students perceived our effort in delivery, as well as how they evaluated their own effort in their learning. Overall, responses to the course from the students were positive, and we had high attendance throughout the semester, which not all classes have. And all the 16 students passed. 15 of those students came back to Xavier in the fall of 2018, and most effectively met the stated learning outcomes, although some struggled to conduct that advanced archival research or to fully articulate their interpretations. We oriented the students to become loyal library users. We see many of them studying in the library or using our services. One of the students wrote in their teacher course evaluation that they felt using the library helped their course learning. Others commented they enjoyed working with the archives. But we would really like to develop a follow-up survey tracking the students over the course of their career to see if they continue to feel connected to the library. Anecdotally, we felt the students really bonded during the semester. Our campus tour was a really good opportunity for informal community building, and also the small groups that they worked in the class period. They demonstrated a sense of community, which we find to be really critical for student retention. And several students did express in their class papers that they felt proud of Xavier after taking the class, and even appreciated the frank discussion about our complex history. One of the objectives where we fell short was in getting students to really truly understand and articulate their vocation. So they were firm on their major, but they didn't necessarily have enough discipline-specific knowledge yet to share that expertise or experience with the class. They also didn't really like all the required readings, but we have found that's a common complaint in first-year seminars. So by focusing our attention on those 16 students, which is a pretty small class, we were able to introduce a wide variety of library services. And then to scale this, other librarians have started teaching in the first-year seminar program. Another positive outcome was the reception we received from fellow faculty members and the insight it gave us into their world. So here at Xavier, we traditionally focus on one-shot instruction through the liaison program. And that doesn't really provide the librarians with the full picture of managing a semester-long course and the barriers that faculty and students may face in becoming loyal library users. So we've incorporated the lessons we learned into how we approach the instruction and our faculty librarian partnerships. And due to the success of the course, we're also invited to present at a mini first-year seminar institute for other faculty members and have been invited back to teach this course numerous times.
Okay, I'm going to change the slide. This is Allison again. In addition to supporting information literacy skills in all of the first-year seminars and then teaching a first-year seminar ourselves, the library also offers a research prize to 3 first-year students each year. Faculty may nominate 1 student per semester in their first-year seminar courses, and they submit the nomination with a copy of the assignment and the student's original work. Nominations are read by a judging panel that consists of librarians and associate deans, and we follow a rubric created by librarians with the help of the English department faculty. We encourage unique and creative assignments that utilize library research, and each semester we receive diverse submissions that include posters, multimedia presentations, song explications, and digital blog posts, as well as traditional research papers and annotated bibliographies. 3 prizes totaling $1,000 are awarded during our annual Family Weekend events in the fall. The students who win this award have gone on to be visible contributors to the Xavier community and frequently use the library. Their works are stored permanently in our institutional repository, which is discoverable worldwide online. And we believe that the public acknowledgement of excellent research so early in the students' time at Xavier contributes to successful academic careers by all of the nominees. On to the next slide. Finally, we wanted to share that the library participates in several annual orientations for first-year students, including the traditional orientation following move-in in August, Smooth Transitions, which is a days-long program for underrepresented students the week before move-in, and these are some of our Smooth Transition students from last fall in the picture there, and Sessions for Trio, which is a federally funded program for first-generation low-income and students with disabilities. In addition, each student at Xavier is assigned what we call a personal librarian based on their major or area of study to whom they can reach out for individual assistance. And through one-shot library instruction sessions in almost all of the first-year composition and rhetoric courses, students see a librarian in their classroom at least once, and often more than once, to learn critical information literacy skills as early as they can in their college career. So thank you. This is the last slide for our presentation.
Great. And we are collecting a few questions from the audience that we'll get to shortly. But first, just a little discussion with all the winners for a few minutes. So I have a question for you both, or I should say all three. What challenges did you face when you were creating your respective programs?
I can start. This is Allison at Xavier. I think that a couple of things that we really hadn't anticipated were the necessity of having a dedicated classroom for us to do the archival work when we had our class. We do have classrooms in the library, but they were pretty full up during the time that our class was. So we actually, as Ann mentioned, met in a different classroom building and then came to the library for the archival research work. But it was really difficult to manage that in a small room. And then we found that we had 3 instructors in a class with 16 students, and it was that was a little chaotic. It was sort of difficult determining who was doing what. We had to figure out things like grading with 3 instructors. We had to get together for prep, follow up with the students. So I think if we were to do it again, we would do it with fewer instructors.
We also had to really scale back in terms of what selections and course materials we were going to use that were appropriate for first-year students. A lot of these students were coming in, they had absolutely no knowledge of university history, very limited knowledge of any sort of higher education history, and the class really wasn't necessarily all about content. It was also about that vocation, coaching, the ethical questions, and information literacy. So it packs a lot into one course.
Brian, how about on your end?
All right, yes, this is Brian. I think I want to thank Deirdre McDonald for one. She was our research services manager. She laid the groundwork for getting our the information literacy in our Jaguar Tracks program. The challenges that we have to face, I guess now, as we have it in the program and we have a first year component for the library, is keeping that component. And the challenges is to make engaging materials for our first year students.
All right. And what other organizations or offices on your campuses helped you to achieve your goals?
I'll go ahead and start. This is Brian. We have various offices that help us with our goals. We have the Office of First Year Experience. We have our IT department, our academic instruction technologists. They do a lot with helping us getting our tutorials and our quizzes and our Jaguar Tracks modules. And we work a lot with our Maze Center and other departments to attend events that are geared towards information literacy or our classes and our outreach in general. So we work a lot with our Jaguar Tracks instructors and other instructors to go into the classes as well.
This is Anne at Xavier. We worked with a lot of different campus units. The first, the most important one was the first year program. The task force and the director really supported us. They have funding available that we applied for money for a field trip. They offered workshops, particularly on the stated student learning outcomes. So every core has to have those student learning outcomes, and they offer workshops on how you can address those. In connection sort of with that, we relied on the Center for Teaching Excellence here for workshops on syllabus design and pedagogy, particularly their workshops on how to talk about race and difference in first year classes. That was a big component of our class and not something that as librarians and archivists we had really been trained to talk about with students. So that was really important. And then we networked with our other offices and our connections. Allison just emailed the president and he was more than happy to come. We worked with the Office of Marketing and Communications staff to have someone come from there who writes for our campus magazine. And she talked about her use of Xavier's history as a writer and in graphic design, which was neat because we had a student who was a graphic design major. And we also had a couple of communications students. And then we did have a community partner. Xavier used to be downtown, and the only thing that remains is a church. And we went and visited that church, and they were gracious and hosted us as well.
We also had a lot of support, particularly for the library prize that I mentioned, from the IT division. So our library reports up through the IT division here at Xavier, which is kind of an unusual structure, but we got a lot of support from them. And they actually provided half the funding for our original research prize. And then we partnered with the associate deans on that program. So they are part of the judging panel with us and help us determine the winners and then attend the lunch that we have during family weekend.
Great, and you've touched on this a little bit, but how about collaborations with other teams within your libraries?
Yeah, this is Allison. Go ahead, Brian, go ahead.
All right, sorry. So we collaborate with, I would say it's a group effort, entire library staff effort at our library. I collaborate with several, Sarah Timms, our public service manager, and the public service team. Deirdre McDonald and the research services manager, and the subject librarians, and our student workers and our library specialists. They help us a lot on help me a lot on all the different projects that we have as well, as far as making handouts and different activities, making different materials for different activities that I do. So it's an entire staff effort.
I would second that. For Xavier, it was a group effort. We had support from the library director right away in helping us even come up with the idea to do the course. The other librarians pitched in because we were team teaching a class with 3 librarians twice a week for an entire semester. So we had reference shifts that needed to be covered. We had other instruction that we normally would do that they would cover for us. It was definitely, we had other people involved. Specifically, our digital initiatives librarian who oversees our makerspace. We had an entire session in the makerspace because our students were making scrapbooks. That was kind of a fun project that we did. So he helped out with that. Our university historian, who is a Jesuit priest, provided a lot of insight, a lot of help with history of Xavier because he just simply is so knowledgeable about that. And he actually came and was a guest speaker for us. The students enjoyed that. And then we actually wanted to provide the students with the book for the class. We used a history of Xavier that was written by a priest several decades ago, and we wanted to be able to provide that free of charge to the students because the book is out of print. So we took copies from our own collection. Our tech services department cataloged those for us, and we provided them to the students for free. So we definitely had a lot of input from the library staff.
Great. And what kind of impact did you see from your programs? What was the feedback like from both students and faculty?
I'll go ahead and start. This is Brian. I think the biggest impact is we're building relationships with our students. I see students around campus and they feel comfortable asking for help. They'll stop me in the hallway. I'll even see students sometimes at off campus at different places that I may go, and they'll tell how helpful it is with their classes and things like that. Or they'll ask, can they schedule an appointment with me? And I was like, you have to wait till Monday when y'all get to work. So I see the impact, and they recognize that I'm here. And the feedback that I think was most important for the Jaguar Tracks 1 was the information literacy modules and how the students felt that needed to be improved. So I think that was the biggest impact for that class.
This is Anne at Xavier. Our biggest impact was immediately on the students. Their feedback was really positive to the course. They engaged in a lot of discussion on difficult topics that most of the other first-year students weren't having to confront. They enjoyed the variety of projects that they had to do in the class and the diverse perspectives that they got to experience. In terms of the faculty, we built a lot of capital with the faculty by doing the course, the deans and the associate provosts and even the provost. They saw us as peers and participants in a way that our previous activity hadn't really allowed. So in terms of the impact and the feedback from them, it was, again, kind of like Bryant, building relationships and building trust was a big, big impact.
Great. And for our final interview question, do you have any tips for others who are looking to embark on similar programs? And are there any specific resources that you could recommend?
I can start. This is Allison at Xavier. We had a lot of help from, as we mentioned, a lot of people around campus. One thing I would suggest is just engage with as many people on campus as you can. We asked faculty who had been teaching the first year seminars for several years, tips about the pedagogy, what rubrics to use, how they manage the classroom, all kinds of things, how to engage the students. We have Canvas as our course management system, and we use that extensively. So we were able to do all of the actual course organization with our syllabus and grading and assignments and readings were all in Canvas. So I think that using the tools that we have available for faculty was really helpful for us.
And this is Anne. In terms of the actual course content and that sort of thing, one of the tips would just be to review the body of literature that's already available that other archivists, librarians have been working on. So the guidelines for primary source literacy had just come out from SAA and ACRL RVMS task force, and we were able to incorporate those guidelines into how we set up the class schedule, identifying what sort of objectives we wanted out of each session and build them in that way. So I would say take advantage of the work that others have already, the blood, sweat, and tears that they've put into it too.
I agree as well. This is Brian. I would say personalize your materials in ways that engage students but are based on your objectives for your different classes. I was, like they said, like Xavier said, I was build off your partnerships with other departments outside of the library. And some helpful resources that I found helpful was the First Year Experience Cookbook. I've taken some activities from there, and so they can fit what our students need and what we need for our university, our library. Buzzers, dry erase pedals are something that I use. We had these items that weren't being used, but we had them stored here at the library, so I decided to take advantage of those. and build your instruction, library instruction and different things around current events, students that will relate to students. So whatever is going on in the community, in the world that will engage students, you can bring it into the classroom so they can relate to different activities as well.
Fantastic. Well, some great takeaways there for everybody, and I know we have a lot of questions, so I'm going to get right to them. Brian, can you tell us a little bit more about the Common Read? Is that specific to your institution?
Yes, so we have the Common Read here at our university. I know a lot of universities and colleges are doing it as well. So each year, the Common Read, we select a book and a theme. So this year, the theme is daringly, bravely going where others won't. And our book is Spare Parts. So off of that book, we based different activities to engage the campus community in discussions and different activities. So we'll bring in guest speakers, and this is all organized through our first year experience program. We have a Common Read committee. I sit on that committee, and we select the book for the upcoming year and the theme for the upcoming year. So it's a program to help stimulate discussions around campus.
Great. Allison and Ann, if your course was co-taught, who did the grading?
Ha 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 ha. This was a big part. All three of us graded every single assignment, every discussion, every major paper, everything. We set up spreadsheets, we had rubrics, and so each one of us would go through our rubric on our own, and then we would put our comments and our grades in a spreadsheet. We'd average those grades, and then we'd discuss and talk about it. Because we did find that it was like the good parent, bad parent, good cop, bad cop, where whoever submitted the grade in Canvas, it would come up, say, Allison Morgan gave you a 9 out of 10. And if the student wasn't happy with their grade, they would email the other professors and say, oh, can you do something about my grade? Not realizing that Allison was simply the person who had 5 minutes to input their grade into Canvas. So we had all, I mean, we walked through them with what the process that we were doing, but, you know, students, they still tried to get a better grade. So it took a lot of time.
Okay. And are librarians compensated for that credit-bearing class?
Yes, we were paid as adjunct instructors.
With the expectation then that we did a lot of the work outside of
our sort of day-to-day work in the library. It was sort of considered above and beyond that. So we were paid separately from our salaries.
Got it. And did you engage the ACRL framework for IL instruction while you were designing that course?
We didn't really. I think, you know, we have that in the back of our minds when we're doing instruction in general. And we've actually been putting some time into that in terms of our regular one-shot instruction over the last couple of years. We were actually really more focused on archival methods rather than what I would say sort of traditional information literacy methods. And Anne was able to pull a lot from her background and her resources for that angle. So there was more, in terms of the research, there was more an effort to focus on archival methods rather than the ACRL current standards.
Okay. And Brian, I have a question for you. You seem so busy. Do you have any help from other librarians with all the activities that you mentioned?
Yes, I do. Like I said, I only do the Jaguar Tracks 1 and 2 classes, and we're invited into those classes by the instructor. But yes, we have the other librarians do 3 and 4. Yeah, but I have help from our entire library staff on all the things that I do, so yes.
Great. And Allison and Anne, I have some questions related to the funds that you mentioned for supporting the research prizes. Where do those funds come from, and how do you sustain those through the years? Also, do you have any guidelines for students to follow and a rubric? And if you do, would you mind sharing those resources?
Sure. The funding comes out of actually the library's operating budget now. When we first initiated the prize, it was a joint funding between the library's operating funds and the IT division. Our CIO, our Chief Information Officer, sort of split the cost of the prize with us. So we give out, our first place winner is $500, our second place is $300, and the third place is $200, $1,000 total. So when we first started, IT gave us $500 and the library chipped in $500. And over the last, we've been doing this for 3 years. Over the last couple of years, that sort of migrated to where it's solely out of the library's operating budget, but we budget for that specifically each year. And then, so I anticipate that we'll sustain that just by continuing to make sure that that's a priority in our operating budget. Our director is very keen on this prize, so I think that he'll continue to make that a priority. We do have guidelines. We have, not necessarily for the students, it's more for the faculty nominations. So the students follow the guidelines that the professor lays out in the assignment, and it's totally up to the professors. And then we have criteria specific for the faculty to follow for their nomination letters that they submit to us. And then we do ask the students, once they're nominated, the students have to submit a reflection on what their experience with the library was, and we have specific guidelines for that. And we do have a very specific rubric that the judges follow with a number of categories and criteria, so that, because we have librarians and associate deans reading quite a large number of submissions, we want it to be fairly consistent. So we do follow a rubric, and we're more than happy to share that. We do have a page on our website for it, but I'm happy to send the link and have it shared out, whatever works best. We're happy to share that.
Great. If you're able to share that right now, we can even put that into the chat to everyone, but we can also include it in a follow-up.
Okay, we'll send it as a follow-up.
Great. Okay. And speaking of sharing, have you shared your course to Canvas Commons?
No, we haven't. It's so specific to Xavier history. We haven't shared it. No.
Okay. Great. Brian, what is the first year experience cookbook? I guess a couple of people aren't familiar with that. If you could speak to that resource a little bit.
Yes, so the First Year Experience Cookbook is a book with different activities by Ray Pun, and I cannot remember the other authors. So they co-authored this book, and it's different activities that different people have submitted geared towards first-year students. And we probably can send you a link up with that information as well if you want more information about that cookbook as well.
Yeah, and another resource that we can share as well is actually another item that we co-authored with Ray Pun as well. So we have published an FYE guide, which has a lot of materials as well that can help with FYE courses. So we'll share that along with a link for that cookbook. Anne and Allison, going back to you, can you comment on the value of the course approach versus one-shot? This person's also curious about how much instruction your liaisons did per the semester or term.
So I'll answer that second question first. We've got 11 librarians, and we're all liaisons to the academic departments. Total, we do about maybe 500 to 600 classes a semester, all combined. A lot of times reaching the first year students, but depending on the department, some people do quite a lot of one-shot instruction in the upper level classes as well. So it's probably 500 to 600 courses over the course of a whole semester between all 11 of us, not just the 3 of us that were teaching this class. And then in terms of the value for information literacy between the one-shot versus the course, I think what the course did was lay out more kind of a way to understand Xavier's history for one thing, but as the content, but also the value of archival research, using primary sources and that kind of thing. And in fact, we actually found that one of the sort of unintentionally, and we didn't see this coming, one of the, I'm actually going to say one of the weaker aspects of the course was our efforts at traditional information literacy in the course, because we were really trying hard to make it not feel like a library class. You know, like it was intentionally not a 4-credit information literacy class for the students. It was this very specific first-year seminar format focused on the historical resources. So what we didn't spend a lot of time on was the more traditional secondary source research that we might have done in a regular information literacy class. So I think still that the one-shot instruction for information literacy probably is still more successful for that aspect than this course, just because they're sort of meeting different goals.
It was helpful for us to see the course approach helped us see where we fell short and where we didn't, because we had consistent engagement with the students, and we could see them either building skills over time, or we could critically assess, oh, you didn't do any of your citations correctly. We missed that in the class that we taught. Like, it just didn't sink in. And then we could go back and revisit some of those skills. So that was one of the benefits of doing the course.
And another question about your course. So your first course had 16 students. Are you using it as a test to inform instruction across campus? And how are you using it to inform that IL across campus?
This is Anne. For myself, I'm definitely using it as a test to inform my instruction, because I do a ton of university archives and special collections instruction, and I partner with a lot of faculty members and classes who are using those resources in their class. And so since our course, I've been able to help faculty members tailor their projects, suggest maybe alternatives when I know that we don't have certain amount of sources, or I know students really struggled with the Latin text of some of our letters, for instance. So in terms of that, it's definitely informed our partnerships and done a test. Allison can speak to information literacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it was sort of less a pilot for how we might do information literacy and more a pilot for librarians being involved in the first-year seminar program. It was we don't have control over the 16 student limit, whereas if we were teaching a sort of a traditional 4-credit information literacy course, we might perhaps have larger classes, and the format would be a little bit different. But I definitely think it was a good test for us to see how we could incorporate traditional library skills, information literacy, and that more in-depth kind of archival research into an actual 4-credit course.
All right, and looks like we have one more question, unless any more come through, but this would be for everyone. Any solid plans to track student library engagement from first year to graduation?
I'll go ahead and start with that. We have started a library anxiety task force. So we're going to see how to gauge. We're going to start with our freshmen to see how they view the library, and then we may go from there up to upperclassmen. But I think that would be a good start to track how our students view the library and engage with library resources.
And this is Allison from Xavier. We've got a couple of librarians on staff who really are actively, I think, working on that in a way that we haven't done in the past. We've got a relatively new head of user experience, and we have a relatively new head of reference and instruction. And the two of them combined are pretty excited about working with specifically our English 101 and English 115 classes, which are the composition and rhetoric classes here. And they are working with faculty already. They've had discussions to track how the students do in those classes in terms of information literacy and follow those students for the next 4 years. So we are just in the beginning phases of talking about that pilot project is a way to put it, I guess, because I think that has the potential to be pretty significant. So we're looking forward to putting that into place.
Excellent. Well, that comes to the end of all the questions we received, but super engaged audience, so everybody clearly finds a lot of value in everything you shared. So I want to thank you, Brian, Ann, and Allison again. It's been a pleasure working with you guys on this presentation.
Thank you very much. We enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So we hope that you all enjoyed this presentation, and if you're interested in other future sessions, please do check out all the webinars that we have posted online. We'll put anything that's upcoming as well as recordings of past webinars. So as a reminder, you will get a recording of this webinar shared within 24 hours, and there will also be a short survey shared directly where you can ask for the slides or let us know if you have any other questions. So we look forward to seeing you at future sessions. Thanks again for joining us.